There is a kind of loneliness that only rain can hold. Not the loud, stormy kind, but the soft, steady rain that falls at dawn when the world is still asleep and the air smells of wet earth and old stone. In a village nestled between misty hills, there lived an old woman named Hannah. She was known not for her words, for she spoke little, but for her silence. Every morning she would sit on her wooden porch with a cup of tea, watching the clouds gather, listening as the first drops touched the roof tiles like distant footsteps. People came to her with their troubles. A farmer worried his crops would drown, a young mother grieving a loss she couldn't name, a boy ashamed of his stammer. They would sit beside her, spilling their pain into the quiet, expecting advice. But Hannah never gave answers. She would simply pour them tea, point to the sky, and say, "Listen." At first, they thought she wasn't listening, that her silence was indifference. But after a while, something shifted. In the space between the raindrops, their own voices grew softer. Their shoulders relaxed, their breathing slowed, and without a single word of counsel, they left feeling lighter. One evening, a traveler arrived, drenched, exhausted, eyes hollow with grief. He had walked for days, carrying a sorrow so heavy he could barely speak its name. "Everyone tells me to move on," he said, voice cracking, "but I don't know how. The pain won't leave." Hannah said nothing. She handed him a dry blanket, filled a bowl with warm broth, and gestured to the empty space beside her on the porch. Outside, the rain began again, soft, persistent, unhurried. For hours they sat in silence. The traveler wept quietly. Hannah watched the water trace paths down the window pane. Finally, he turned to her. "Why don't you say anything? Don't you care?" Hannah smiled faintly. "I care too much to interrupt." He frowned. "What do you mean?" She pointed to the rain. "Do you hear it?" He said, "Yes." "Is it trying to fix the drought? Is it apologizing for being wet? Is it rushing to become something else?" He shook his head. "No," she said, "it is simply raining, and in its falling, it nourishes the roots, cleanses the leaves, fills the rivers. It doesn't need to explain itself. It doesn't need to be useful. It only needs to be true." She paused, letting the sound of rain fill the space. "Your grief is like this rain," she said gently. "It doesn't need to go away to be valid. It doesn't need to serve a purpose to belong. It only needs to be felt, fully, patiently, without judgment." The traveler stared at the sky. For the first time in months, he didn't try to stop his tears. He let them fall like rain, natural, necessary, part of the landscape of his soul. And in that surrender, something unexpected happened. The weight didn't vanish, but it changed shape. It became less like a stone in his chest and more like water, fluid, moving, alive. You see, we treat our pain like an intruder. We lock it in the basement of our hearts, hoping it will disappear if we ignore it long enough. We apologize for its presence as if sadness is a flaw in our design. But what if sorrow isn't a mistake? What if the rain is the water that soils the soil of your compassion? What if your tears aren't weakness, but the very thing that keeps your spirit from drying into dust? Hannah knew this truth not because she had studied it, but because she had lived it. Years ago, she lost her only child to fever. For months, she screamed at the sky, begged the gods for answers, punished herself for surviving. Then one night, exhausted, she stepped outside during a downpour and simply stood in it. No prayer, no plea, just presence. And in that moment, she felt it.
The rain wasn't falling on her, it was falling with her. The sky was weeping too. From that day on, she stopped fighting her grief. She let it flow through her like a river, sometimes gentle, sometimes fierce, but always part of her. And in that acceptance, she found a peace deeper than happiness. True healing doesn't come from erasing pain. It comes from making room for it. So tonight, or tomorrow morning, or in the quiet after this story ends, if sorrow visits you, don't send it away. Invite it in. Offer it tea. Sit with it on the porch. Let it speak in its own time. You don't need to fix it. You don't need to understand it. You only need to let it be, like rain on a quiet roof. Because even the heaviest rain eventually becomes mist, then cloud, then sky. And you too will rise again, not by leaving your pain behind, but by letting it transform you. If this story brought you comfort, share it with someone who's carrying rain inside. And if you'd like more stories like this, subscribe to The Inspired Thinker. Tap the bell so you never miss a moment of peace. Until next time, breathe with the rain, weep without shame, and trust that even your tears are sacred.